Hello world. Today I'm going to do a rough kind of video, a walk around just a normal Tokyo neighborhood. Because someone asked me on Patreon, what does the neighborhood look like? What will you find? Schools, shops, that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to walk around and point out things as I see it. It's going to be really rough. And then what I would like you guys to do is in the comments, ask me to further talk about certain things, or say like, oh, that stuff was boring, but this stuff was interesting. And then I'll make a real video on the main channel talking about what you guys want to know about. So anyways, right now I'm in the middle of a kind of greenway, and we're close to a station called Shin-Koiwa. I think it's a fairly major station around here. And everything in Tokyo, I find, it's centered around the train stations. So if you're looking to rent a place or buy a place, they will say we're like 10 minutes away from this station or 15 minutes away from this station. So I'm probably about, I don't know, a 5-minute walk away from Shin-Koiwa. But the problem is we have our bikes and we can't just leave our bikes here. You actually have to have bike parking. So we're gonna go find some bike parking, park our bikes, and then walk around. So we're just moving the bike up the parking garage, and we're going to the 3rd floor. So if you hold your brakes, this helps you bring it up. It's kind of like electronic. You can see there's tons of bike parking. And it's because it's right next to a station, that's why there's so much bike parking. So you're pretty much free to park your bike anywhere in this parking lot, and you'll see most bikes, they just have what's called a wheel lock like this, and that's the only thing. I mean, they have some security guards downstairs, but I don't think anybody really steals these bikes. So this bike parking is 100 yen, which is about $1 US. So it's not free, but it's not crazy expensive either. And look, cherry blossoms. So I'm just walking to Shin-Koiwa station, and there's a bike parking lot right behind me. And obviously this is a very commercial district, so you can probably find anything you want over here. That's a convenience store. This is a grocery store. Over on this side, we got restaurants. But right in the mix of it, you'll see here, is we have an apartment building, or mansion, and at the bottom, there's a restaurant. So it's mixed use. You can use it for residential, you can use it for commercial purposes. But as you notice, there's like no on-street parking. You can load stuff in and out, but it's illegal to have any parking on the street. So what you do is they have parking like over here, both for bikes and for cars. So this is an example of a drugstore. So you'd find like tissue papers, soap, detergents, toothpaste, all that kind of stuff. So when my wife and I go shopping for groceries at a grocery store, we don't pick up these types of things at a grocery store. We actually pick them up at a drugstore, whereas at a grocery store, we pick up food only. Okay. This is Shin-Koiwa station, and that's pachinko and slot machines. Pachinko is like this kind of gambling game, although technically it's not gambling, but it's kind of gambling. Really loud in there. And then this is the station itself. So this one looks like it has a walk-through. So you can walk right from one side to the other, right under the trains. And then in the middle of it is where you can actually enter and get on the tracks. Okay, so this is the JR line, and that's where you'd enter to catch the train. And as you can see, there's lots of people doing that. And this is around, I don't know, 11 o'clock in the day. But in the mornings, it'd probably be pretty crazy busy. Okay, so this is Shotengai, right? Right? They don't do anything. You're so nervous, man.
I don't want them to be toying to us.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. Okay, so. No, I mean, they don't. Even if they ask you, they just ask you what you're doing. So this is the other side of the station, Shin-Koiwa. So over there is the Koba, which is like a little police station. You can actually see the police guy right over there. And then there's bathrooms over here. There's always free public bathrooms around. And you can see the trains coming. And it's a pretty big commercial area, so I'm just gonna do a big sweep of it. And we're gonna go into the Shotengai over there.
Can you comfortably do this like by yourself?
Yeah, just chill. I'll just talk to you and explain to you, right? So this is a Shotengai, and it's pretty much a covered mall, but a covered outdoor mall. And you have shops that sell anything. So we have over here bags and whatnot, clothing, eyeglasses, shoes. They'll probably have restaurants, cafes. Convenience stores. Yeah, suits. So I think a big Shotengai like this is only in places that have a big enough population. You won't find this by a small train station, right? So here you're not actually allowed to ride your bike. You can take your bike in, you'll see bikes, but you have to walk your bike through this area. I'd say this Shotengai is quite vibrant. Doesn't look to be like a lot of closed shops. Seems to be a lot of people. But when I've gone to other stations around Tokyo, some of them are kind of like sad because it used to be, I think, where everyone shopped. Like this was the big mall. But nowadays you have like more North American style malls, and those seem to be more popular than the Shotengais. But this one seems to be a lot of people that seem to be doing well. So that store over there, it just sells tofu, that's it. So over here is Shotengai, but if I go to the right hand side, you'll see what it looks like, just a regular neighborhood. Okay, so this is a monthly parking. You would think that this is parking for the Shotengai, but this is actually monthly parking that you pay. So what was the price for this? So it's like 2,700 yen, or like maybe 27 US dollars. Yeah, here we go. Here's the pricing. Oh, but if you're a student, it's even cheaper. Yeah. So yeah, this could be like exactly where you park your bike, right over here every day before you go to the station and then go off to school or go to work. Yeah. This is just one block away from the Shotengai. And as you can see, it's quite residential area. Nothing special. but really small streets. And you can actually drive a car through here, I think. It's really narrow. You wouldn't think so, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a car drive through here. So my wife was saying even in a residential area, you could have your own restaurant. And actually, I think right over here on his right-hand side, this is a restaurant. Yeah. As you can see here, this is going to be a little grocery store, actually, at the bottom of a 3-story apartment building, or mansion. So this is just a path between homes. But there should be a place, a little park or a place to sit soon, I bet you.
What is this?
It's So this is one of my favorite things about Tokyo, is that you have these little greenways and people can have like little gardens in their whatever front yard or backyard. These little tiny yards they have. Although I'm pretty sure what we're walking on right now is public space. So there's kind of like guerrilla gardening. Oh, okay, so here, this is probably like a daycare center. So I'm not going to show any kids here, but yeah. Oh, kindergarten, technically. But yeah, like for example, in this house, like over here, that's up to a point, it's got to be, you know, owned by the person. But I don't know about this place right here. I don't know if that's the city or if that's owned by the person. But I'm pretty sure all these plants, like any of these plants you see along this side here, they're probably officially maintained by the city. But people can just put their own plants sometimes, and it's kind of like a mix, is what I noticed. Don't you think? I kind of expected to find a park by now. I'm sure there is one. Maybe I have to look at my map and find. What kind of place do you think this is? Athlete. This is an athlete center? But there's like no one here. An athlete hotel? I don't know. So pretty much in every neighborhood you're gonna find things like this in Tokyo. This is a construction site. And so they completely block it off with panels while they're doing their construction. And when cars are leaving, they'll wash them off. And usually at the corners, they'll have like a see-through panels where you can see what's happening. So for like the curious onlookers. And oh, here we go. Here's the panel. So let's check out what's going on. It's just funny. So they have a see-through panel, but then it's blocked, so you can't see. But they'll tell you what they're building. So what are we building here? Community center. Oh, so they're building a community center there. That's why it was marked green on the map. So my go-to place in Japan to kind of eat stuff or hang out is at a park. And since there's lots of kids around, I'll just turn off the camera. So in the park, there's always a public bathroom that you can use. And I see a lot of people who are, say, blue-collar workers, like delivery drivers, construction workers, because there's parks all throughout Tokyo, so it's always a good place to use the washroom. That's free to use, and they're generally fairly clean. They're not the nicest washrooms, but they're generally clean. And then there's also water fountains in every single place. So I'll go to the water fountain and show you. So the water fountains, go. So this is the water fountain, and they have them at every single park. So this is a wallet that's just left here, and maybe someone dropped it, and maybe someone's just leaving it here. I don't know. So I don't know if we should give it to the police officer or just leave it over here. But maybe this is a test. I don't know, but it's literally just a wallet in the neighborhood. But there's security cameras watching us. Well, there's a name in there, so we're gonna try to call it and see if we can find out whose it is. But then I won't show you the name. So how much money was in there? Like you say, like maybe 1万円? Okay, so there's more than $100 in this wallet, so we're gonna, and there's credit cards and all personal identification, so we're just gonna bring it to a local police box and return it. But we have to go back this way probably then. So we're gonna have to go back to the Shoten guy. So at first I thought there was just like $100 in there, but there's definitely at least $1,000 in there, and maybe even a couple thousand. It looked like the guy just went to the bank and pulled out a whole bunch of money because it had one of these envelopes from the ATM. And so we just took it to the local police station and our police box called Koban. And you just give a few little details about where you found it and your phone number, and if you want to claim a percentage of the money, because I think you could legally claim 20%. But we declined that. We don't need the 20% of the guy's money. And we knew it was a pretty a senior person, I think, because of the type of card that was in the wallet. So I think he was over 75 years old. And it sounds like the police said they were going to be able to find him quite quickly. So maybe he had called in already about it missing. Yeah, that's kind of super random to find a wallet on the street. Like I kind of was looking around thinking it might be some type of social experiment. They're seeing what we're going to do with the wallet. But it's not the first time my family's found money, because my wife and daughter found just 1万円, which is a $100 bill, on the street, and they had returned it also to the police station, except at that time the police officer kind of seemed a little bit upset about it, because like mendokusai, like it's a pain in the butt to have to take care of the missing money, because by reporting the money, then either they could claim, I think, 20% right away, or they could wait 3 months and then they'll get the whole amount. And so you have to fill out all this paperwork. So it took a bit of time to do all that stuff. But in the end, of course, no one claimed the $100 bill lying on the street, and we got the $100. So this feels like a pretty major road, and it's just right alongside the Shotengai, which is the covered shopping district. And as you can see, we have the sidewalks, so it's not unpedestrian friendly, but it's not as nice as the Shotengai for just walking around. And obviously a lot more traffic, more noisy. So it's kind of nice that the area has a Shotengai for shopping, but there's obviously a lot of commercial buildings over here. So you'll see this all the time. They're doing like renovation, and so they'll have scaffolding. Always scaffolding. It's probably the law. And they're maybe just painting or power washing the place, maybe doing something deeper, I don't know. But that's interesting for me because in Canada, I think scaffolding's kind of expensive. So I used to actually paint houses, and we'd hardly ever use scaffolding. But in Japan, it's like the norm for anything you do in a house. You always use scaffolding. So over here, just in like the garage, really, it's a fruit stand. And then above it is the house. So I'll just turn the camera once we get past here and show you. So it really is just like a regular house. And at the bottom, selling fruits out of garage. Totally legal, doable. And oh yeah, over there, that's bike parking. And so now you'll see, you got these like, what is it, a 3-story mansion or 4-story mansion, apartment building, and then little single houses, wooden apartment buildings, which are called apato, like a really big mix. Because we're close to the station, so it's a little bit denser. And over here is a little pub, and above is probably where the owners live. And then of course what is ubiquitous in Japan are these Jido Hanbaiki, which are vending machines. We don't actually know how it works, but you know, people just put machines on their private property and they're either renting it out or maybe they get a cut of the sales. Maybe we can call Hachiyo and ask them, how much money do you make? So my wife thinks some people own the vending machine and they get a cut of the profits, of course, or some people just rent out the space. Okay, so what does over here? What is this? Oh, it's just like, quilting. So this place over here, they're just doing quilting. And again, it's just above is residential. And over here, body functioning studio. So it's probably kind of some type of physiotherapy, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, acupuncture maybe. And then this is like, okay, so you have these barriers, right? So that means that they don't want cars to go through. But motorbikes probably go through even if they're not supposed to. Bikes, obviously. And at the very end, you'll see a school there. But we're walking this way. So I feel like when you're walking in a neighborhood like this to me could be almost anywhere in Tokyo. And in some ways, almost anywhere in Japan. Like it's I guess this is probably kind of like the ugly streets that maybe people think about. And if you live here, I'm sorry, don't mean to call your place ugly. But you know, there's not a lot of much of anything. There's no like lawns and stuff. There's no big yards, but you know, people do stuff. So like over here, they do have some hedges that they plant and they have a little garden over here and whatnot. But I mean, it's a fairly bland street. But the nice thing is that there's no traffic. So we're walking in the middle of the road. There's in fact no sidewalks. And if cars come, we'll go to the side. But cars also, the speed limit is 30 kilometers an hour, which is like 20 miles per hour, I think, roughly. And they won't run you over. Like, it'd be their fault if they run you over if you're walking in the middle of the road as a pedestrian. It'd be the fault of the car driver. And over here, this is a parking lot. So one of the things about the residential areas is parking is not required. So people are renting this for 40 minutes is 200 yen during the daytime. Yeah. And then what you see over here is a bunch, like 4 new houses. So this could have been either 2 old houses that they made into 4 new houses, or it could have been 1 big old house that they made into 4 different houses. And that's kind of why people can afford property still, even in Tokyo, is because they just split the land to smaller and smaller pieces so everyone can afford their little piece. But if you look, there's like hardly any space. Like if I walked up to that wall, it's not even like 3 feet, maybe it's 3 feet exactly, space between the houses. And I'll just keep on walking. And you see each house just has like 3 feet of space. But you can afford to have your own single detached home in this way. All right. So this is Co-op Deli, and we use one as well. And they're a food delivery service. So they're delivering groceries basically. And they're generally, they're not the cheapest option, but they usually have fresh food, local food, sustainable practices, that type of thing. So this is a community notification board. Can anyone post on here?
I don't think so.
I don't know if anyone can post on here, but I kind of feel like you can though. If you apply, you could get your notice up in here. But you'll see stuff just for your own little neighborhood notices. So you'll see this all over Japan, and this is just blocking off the roads because they're doing construction. But pedestrians can walk by. Over here, what you see is another parking lot, but this one is not short-term rental, like by the day. This is actually a long-term rental, so you rent it by the month. And maybe this probably cost, let's say like $130, $150, because places don't have parking necessarily. So if you want a car, you rent a little lot like this, and maybe it's a 2-minute walk from your house or a 5-minute walk from your house, but there's like little parking lots like that all over the place around Tokyo. But of course, if you have one of these newer houses, almost all the newer houses, they have at least one parking spot. Oh, okay, here we go. So this building, this is the volunteer fire corps, as you can read. And I guess this is probably in case of like a natural disaster or something, or a big fire emergency. So the regular fire department probably doesn't use this building, I'm assuming. But like, I bet you if there's like a big earthquake or a big fire pops out, then the volunteer corps will come here and work stuff out, you know? This is like a disaster, emergency disaster area, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
So can you explain it a bit?
Yes, when something happens, like earthquakes or like fire and stuff like that, and then just come just to evacuate here.
Come here, okay. So I'll say that, okay. I was just walking on the main road and then I saw this little path, and there's tons of these little paths everywhere throughout Tokyo. And there's, oh, I don't know what kind of place this is, but they have it blocked off a bit. But you walk through between the houses, yeah, and you can kind of cut through. Okay, so over here, these are just storage units. And I guess they can be placed randomly anywhere where there's some free space. Oh, okay. So you'll find this everywhere around Tokyo. These are politicians. And I mean, no matter what time of the year, there's always some posters for politicians, isn't there? Yeah. This is interesting. This is like, what did this used to be, this lot? Because there's a little, like, jinja there, a little shrine, isn't it? So this is probably owned by people, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
It has that look. Like, ones that are rentals kind of look different, but you can see that they have, there's cars underneath this. So I don't know if we can see it over here, but yeah, if you go like look really into the crack, there's cars underneath. And so, really compact use of space. Yeah, this is the place I was trying to get to. So this is one of the nicest like river parks that I know of in Tokyo. Edogawa has a lot of these river parks, but this is like a really big one. And you can see, you can walk in the middle, and then on the left side and right side, you can drive along. But the left and right hand side, they don't drive really fast, so it's also a nice biking path. So I would actually really like to live right next to a place like this. So I find it so nice. So just right here in the middle of the neighborhood, it's a church. And then let's go this way. Okay, so this is what I consider kind of like a calmer area. So really not a lot of cars, but because of this park, it's really beautiful. So I wonder what the land values are. But interestingly, if we just pan over this way, you'll see it's kind of like light industrial. So I don't know what they're doing, but some type of servicing to machines. So in Canada, we would never find something like that in like a residential neighborhood. But really, you can have anything here. We just saw a church. There's like little restaurants. Any kind of business you want, you can have. Hey, it's Editor Greg here. I just wanted to put up this PDF from the government about the land use zones. There are 12 zones. And right now, I'm probably in Category 1 or maybe even Category 2. So you can read the descriptions and see how by default, they allow residential buildings and small shops and offices, elementary/junior high. What makes me think it's category 2 is because there's like some really light industrial stuff. But yeah, in the description, I'll link to this land use zone PDF so you can look at it closer. Yeah, for example, this place over here is just dry cleaners at the bottom floor of a house. Oh, that's kind of actually weird though. That's a rental car. Maybe they're not from the neighborhood, but people don't usually drive that fast on these roads, I find. Yeah. Oh, okay, this is what I want to show. So over here is something I kind of want to show is that you see there's houses on either side, the left and the right. And I bet you that the person at the very back doesn't actually own the whole driveway. It's probably owned with the other houses. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 houses. They probably each equally own a quarter of this driveway and have to maintain it and pay for it. But it's also so like if you sell it, you can't just do anything you want with this road. So everybody owns it and they keep it as a little driveway here. Yeah, this is the speed cars usually drive at around here, like pretty calm. Oh, so I didn't even realize we were in Edogawa before, but now we just walked into Katsushika. I mean, so we're almost close to peak cherry blossom. Maybe we're a few days away. So there just seems to be a lot of people chilling around, enjoying the nature. But as you can see, it's also not that busy. Oh, okay, yeah. So over here, they're actually designed like this with the rocks so you can just come and walk across. So kids like to play on these rocks. And me. Okay, so here we're in Edogawa now. So here's a kind of waste disposal area. It's probably managed by maybe 5 households, 10 households, something like that. And everyone takes turns keeping it clean and neat. And then you can see all the different days for different stuff you have to do. I think the blue net's basically to keep away the crows, right? Yeah. I was gonna stop here, but it's kind of noisy, so we just go a little bit farther. So this is a very common site. So it's a little tiny Shinto shrine, but behind it is a mansion. And probably, it probably existed here and it probably took up more space, but then they went to build something and so they still left the shrine right there. You'll find little shrines everywhere around Tokyo, around Japan. And then just behind it, over here, you'll see in the middle of this residential area, you'll see greenhouses. And around at least Edogawa ward and stuff, there's like a lot of little pockets of these greenhouses where they do, pretty small scale farming, but yeah. Of course, here is lots of people taking pictures of cherry blossoms because it's gorgeous. What? No. Oh, wait, okay, so this side is Katsushika-ku, and then this side is Edogawa-ku. So 2 different cities. One city, another city. So again, over here in this park, there's just a little bathroom to use, so very convenient. So the thing about today is some seasons you never get a day like this actually. This is pretty much peak cherry blossom and the weather is fantastic. It's about 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know what it is Fahrenheit, Google it. And I mean, just look at this. It's just gorgeous. Because what happens some years is it gets really cold and really windy and it blows away all the stuff, and so you never get to see a full in bloom cherry blossom season, but we just lucked out today. over there, if you see him, that's a local delivery courier biking around. So they have a lot of those. And oh, here's a local postman in his car. But yeah. Oh, he stopped, so we can go by and see it. Yeah, so over here in green, this is a local courier. So they go in cars and big trucks, but they also have really local stuff on bikes. And so he's just dropping off. Oh, this is kind of interesting, actually. You're just... So over here, these are all just private gardens of people along the street. So these people really like having gardens. It's just beautiful. I don't know if they're like keeping up with the Joneses. They're all trying to have the nicest garden, it seems like. Because these are all individual households, but they all have really nice potted plants. And because this is probably a private road, I'm going back now. But here, let's take a look. Bonsai trees. I mean, this must be, you know what? I think this person must run a bonsai business. They have to. I mean, if this person is not running a bonsai business, they just love bonsai trees. It's crazy. So this greenway is essentially about 10-15 minutes away from the Shin-Koiwa station. So it's not too far. Yeah, so this, for example, is someone who has a little bit more money, I would say, because they have their own little garden. And you can tell the house takes up more space than the usual houses around here. So I would say this house is probably worth like $500,000-$600,000. So you can see all along on the left, again, there's just parking, monthly parking for all the people. Whereas over here, these are just like, this is probably a privately owned street, I bet you, for all these houses. And this is probably all built around the same time, I bet you, by the look of it. What kind of place is this, do you think? Okay, so this kind of looks like a care home to us, but we'll go to the front and see. Just, no? Oh no, it's a daycare, nursery. What is care home for kids? Wow, this is a really pretty new, nice. So this is a daycare, wow. Is this private or public? So this is a looks like brand new private hoikuen, which is a daycare or nursery. Looks really nice, wow. Okay, so this is what I was talking about, like just at the corner of the street, you'll see a little jinja, a little shrine. And it could be just owned and maintained by the house because, like, let's see if you can look behind here. It's a, this looks Ojizo-sama. So it looks like it might be like the, you know, shrine grounds, but I think someone actually lives in there. And this is their own personal kind of shrine that is accessible to the public. But I could be wrong. Here's another view of the place, and some of the other locations we saw, they'd probably fit about like 8 houses in the space that there's this one house. So if you really want to buy a lot of land, you can, and build your single house and have a lot of green space. Or you can have 8 houses, so it doesn't matter, whatever you want. Actually, right beside it is a big house that's more modern, not as, I don't know, traditional. And it could be actually the same owners that own both properties. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Just down the road, you can see here's like a apartment building, and in the same type of space, they probably have like 12 units or something like that. So you can have 1 house or 12 houses. Okay, so we're behind a school now, right? So right over here, we're on the backside of a school, so we're probably looking at the kitchen right now. And all the schools in Japan, essentially, they provide school lunch called kyushoku. I actually made a video about it. And yeah, schools are generally within a 10 to 15 minute walking distance of places in Tokyo. If you're in a rural area, it might be different, but in Tokyo, yeah, almost all the, sorry, I shouldn't say schools, I should say elementary schools are almost always within a 10 to 15 minute walk. And maybe middle schools, they have a bigger catchment area, so maybe it could be 10 to 20 minute walk, but that's kind of what the norm is. When you get to high school, it's a whole different ball game because people can travel like on the train or up to like an hour away just to get to a good high school in Tokyo. So it's a lot different than the elementary and middle schools. Oh, so because it's a school, what they have right there, that is a stationery store. So very convenient for all the school kids. And over here, this is probably a apatos. These are probably like one room apartment buildings, probably for like single young people, I bet you. In this building here, they just sell rice. So you have those big machines and they polish the rice in them and package them up. So yeah, just a little rice shop right in the middle of nowhere. So my wife was saying she used to buy rice from a rice shop just like that, as well as have buy miso. Over here is a little barber shop. So just at the bottom of someone's house, they have a beauty salon. So over here is a clinic, just in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So you just saw the lady ride by. That's very typical to have one kid in the front, one kid in the back. What seemed a little bit rare to me is most parents don't put helmets on their kids. I see it a little bit more nowadays, I find, but there's still so many kids who are on bikes that don't wear helmets. So this used to be a public bath, but looks like it's closed. But beside it is a daycare. And you can notice because they have these little, what is it, trolleys? No, what is it called? Buggies. They have little buggies, and the kids will either sit down or stand up in these buggies, and they'll take them to the parks. And then above it is a mansion, apartment building. Okay, so what I've noticed now is we're getting buildings that are a lot taller. Actually, isn't that a Love Hotel?
Probably. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a Love Hotel. But I think we're not in the residential area anymore. We're in a slightly commercial area. So you can have buildings that are bigger than usual. That's why if you look up, you can have something that's like 10 stories high now. Oh, right, you can see that's a short-term stay Love Hotel. This is a little convenience store, and generally all around Tokyo you'll find these little convenience stores. So we're almost back at Shin-Koiwa station, and I think commercial areas like this in Tokyo, each city has maybe, I guess it depends what city you're in, but they might have like 4 or 5 of these kinds of areas per city, right? No? Maybe less? Yeah, these are the big commercial areas in the city. Maybe each city will have like 3, 4, 5 of these in Tokyo. And if it's a bigger city, maybe they might have like, it's all like this kind of, like if you go to Shibuya or Shinjuku, like it gets really crazy. But as you saw, you just walk a little bit and you're in a really calm residential neighborhood. Oh, we can walk across. Yeah, you can buy something there. Yeah. So this is the 3rd floor of a biking garage. I mean, there must be some car park garages around here, but by far there's a lot more parking for bikes than there would be for cars. So I think everyone from around the neighborhood, if they're gonna bike to this station, they park their bikes here, then take the train, and off they go. And I'll show you the train line. And of course down below you can see that there's buses. So they have buses that feed into the train line. This is the north side of the Shin-Koiwa station, so it's not as commercially developed. It's more like old school, I would say. So you can kind of call this like a Shoten-gai, like a shopping street. So you can see there's lots of pedestrians. Cars are allowed to come through here, but they'd be coming through really slow. And you have pretty much anything you want around here, really. From real estate to restaurants to cafes to convenience stores, physiotherapy, banks, anything you want, really. And like I said, see the cars going really slow, so you don't have to really worry about it too much. Grocery market, and there's a school over here.
It's a university.
University, yeah. What's interesting is just in a couple blocks it gets calm really fast, and we're going to where we parked our bikes initially, and just in front of us is just big mansions, apartment buildings. This is the outside of our parking garage, and it's really nice because they have cherry trees all outside of it, so kind of makes it look pretty, even though it's just a bike parking garage. All right, there's a couple of helicopters in the background, but who cares? Yeah, that's it for this video. So if you actually made it this far, this is just a really, really rough look around a neighborhood. And if you have anything that you want to know more about or are interested in, let me know, and I'll try to make a specific video that answers that question if enough people want to see it. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.